That's the power of three. Can
I just point out?
The power of three. What?
Can I just point out that Christopher just stole my joke?
Were you going to do that?
Yeah. That's why I started singing.
You didn't sing the power of three to the power of love, though. You sang
Yeah,
something
I
else.
did.
You didn't. You sang.
That's the power of three.
That is not what you sang.
Yes, it is.
No,
yes,
is
it is.
No, it isn't.
No, it was.
Oh my god.
It was. What did I sing then?
You sang something else. It was slower and more balletic.
Power of three.
It sounded more like that.
Dancing
with me. Cube to cube.
All three.
To cube. Cubed to cube. Welcome back to Doctor Who, everybody. Doctor Who Review, a sort of video podcast with me, Chris.
And me.
That was so weird. What happened now? She just went, and me. Like, looked at me, like, go on. I was like, what? That's not how we do it. We've done like 100 of these now. What the hell?
No. It's been a silly evening.
It's been a time about restaurant. We're here to finish off Series 7.
We're here to finish what we started.
We're here to finish what is known, release schedule-wise, as Series 7 Part 1. Although obviously this video is called Series 7 Part 2 because it's Part 2 of our Series 7. Basically...
Are we going to keep this?
Yep. Basically, we're saying goodbye to the puns with a double whammy. Not Chris, or as you're called this week, me. Awkward pause. What is the power of three? What happens in the power of three?
A lot of cubes start appearing and everybody's like, whoa, look at them cubes. And taking them into their houses, putting them in their cars. They're in hospital. I mean, why? Cafes, somebody's put it on a coffee machine. Why would you put it on a coffee machine? Unless you want a coffee-flavoured cube.
Yeah, I find it weird that people are just sort of hanging out with them, but there's also a couple times we see shots of just, like, rubbish bins full of them.
Why be any different?
Why be any different?
Anyway, yeah,
the invasion
so
of the really small cubes.
The doctor's like, whoa, what's occurring?
His famous catchphrase. Hello, pond. What's occurring?
And, yeah, the unit get involved and are like, what? What's happening? What
the deuce?
What the flipping heckers is happening? What in blazes is happening?
That's the surface. What's the episode really about? Amy and Rory coming to terms with whether or not they need to stop doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's basically we've been given the safe way out of this life. Maybe we should take that safe route now. Because obviously God Complex was the last time they were regularly like in the TARDIS, Amy and Rory. And it ended with the Doctor being like, nope, dropping you off. Like, one day you are going to die and it will be my fault. And I'm not having that. And I'm not having that for you or for me. Goodbye, Rory and Amy. Here's a house. Here's a car. See you later. Gizabelle.
See you.
Because he doesn't meet up with them chronologically.
I'm so sorry. I've got hay fever. I'm so sorry. Please excuse my nasal noise.
He doesn't meet with them chronologically.
Noises.
Oh my god, he doesn't meet with them.
Nasal noises.
What I love about this, we're filming this in May, so you having hay fever will be completely baffling to everybody because this is going out in February, I think, and it's like at least another month before people's allergies kick in.
Sorry.
The Doctor doesn't chronologically meet them again during Series 6 because he sees an earlier version of them signing autographs at a department store in closing time, and then he meets an alternate universe version of them in the world where everything's weird and wibbly and they're wearing eye patches and all that stuff.
Yeah, and don't know each other.
Yeah. The next time he sees them is at the end of Doctor Wood in the Wardrobe, where he pops around for tea on Christmas. Series 7's had this thing of they just go on adventure. Well, they don't, do they? It starts with the divorce episode. Watch Watch the last episode of Doctor Who Review to understand why we, for various reasons, did not enjoy Asylum of the Daleks. But then since they've just been going off on jollies, there's throwaway mention in in Town Called Mercy of Rory leaving his phone charger in Henry VIII's bedroom.
Mm.
And then in this one, there's a bit of a montage during it where they go off on adventures and they visit Henry VIII, and Amy accidentally marries him, which... that's
hard to do.
At this point, that becomes... That was a very good history joke. At this point, I've noticed that that's a recurring gag with Moffat. The main characters marrying significant celebrities or historical figures.
Yeah.
It's another one of his tropes.
Yeah.
Like the Doctor and Marilyn Monroe get married somewhere off camera during A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
You know, the 50th anniversary will tackle the Doctor marrying Queen Elizabeth I. Like, there's a lot of it in a way where I'm like, Stephen, is this another one of your interests that you're sneaking into the show?
Stephen, please can you put it back in your pants? I was thinking I might be subtle saying that, but then I thought, no.
Nil, and indeed 9.
I don't feel subtle today.
But I like the idea of the story explorer. Well, actually, in Stephen Moffat's defence, he did not write this episode.
Mm.
But he probably told Chris Chibnall to put that in, didn't he? Let's be honest.
I'm thinking with my penis.
This episode.
I'm very tired.
This episode is so. You keep making penis jokes while you're faffing around on your phone.
I'm sorry.
This episode, to give it its due, and you don't remember watching this ever prior to this marathon.
I do, but I think I got it confused with this one and the spoons.
Oh, Bells of St. John. Okay, yeah.
I'm so glad you knew what I was talking about.
No.
As I said it, I was like, wait, I've got this wrong.
No, I get you. This is... I think this is really bloody good until it shits the bed at the end.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that is out of the control of everyone who made it.
Yes.
And we'll talk about that before we wrap up on this episode. But Chris Chibnall writes it. Bless you. Chris Chibnall writes it. My wife sneezes like a Disney princess.
Oh, I know,
it's
pathetic.
Chris Chibnall is brilliant.
Sorry.
Under Moffat.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing. At writing domestic settings for the characters. Don't lie, he was not like that.
I've got a smutty mind today, I'm so sorry.
Who are you, Stephen Moffat? Get off it.
Oh.
Stephen Moffat.
Get off it, Stephen Moffat, you know what I mean?
He's great at writing domestic settings under Moffat's guidance as showrunner.
Yeah. We talked about this, didn't we?
Like the setup with Brian and everything at the start of Dinosaurs in a Spaceship, like Chibnall's development of that stuff worked, and we get way more Brian here. Mark Williams cementing his place as like someone who should have been in this show way more.
Yeah.
But as you know from having watched these episodes now, that's it. 2 episodes and done. There was one more scene with him that was not shot, and we will be talking about that in an upcoming video.
Yeah, I remember that.
But the stuff with Brian in this is fantastic. The stuff with Amy and Rory is lovely and really fun. We get glimpses of their social life, like the friends they hang out with. Amy's a bridesmaid, at one point, and it's this whole thing of them committing to these big do's and events in other people's lives, people within their lives. Realising that, are we throwing away the fact that we might randomly go off on an adventure, or are we committing to these things so that we don't go off on more adventures? Because as much as they love the Doctor, real life's happening now, and they're kind of loving it.
Yeah.
Like the domesticity and the humanity of the day-to-day. No, domesticity's a word.
Sounds like an illness.
Oh, God. Well, it is for some.
Whoa.
But, like, they're starting to really settle into it and enjoy it. And essentially the reason why this episode's fun is the core challenge of it. The challenge of these 3 are like friends for life. They always will be. Yeah. I mean, hey, he's their son-in-law as well, so there's that.
Yeah.
But like,
gosh, I didn't even think of it.
But like, eventually, they'll want to do the things that they've always like thought about doing since growing up. since being a kid and growing up. They were like, oh, I'll probably do that, I'll probably do this, and what, that'd be cool. Oh, I'm going to be a bridesmaid, that's amazing. And
Rory's still in there.
Rory never accepts a promotion, we learn. Like, he sort of sticks to kind of the same thing, and I guess it's because he's never always there. Like, he's as his colleague says, like, you're one of the best that we've got, but you're not always here. Like, if you were here more often, like, you could be earning more, and do you know what I mean? It's just like they're both thinking about it and be like, maybe we call this a day. Amy's become a journalist, we learn by this point. Like, she's doing journalism.
But where is she going?
Oh yeah, she's a travel journalist. It's like,
where is she going?
Well, see, there's a subtle gag there, because she could be writing about places that they go on Earth and stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they never do anything with it, and I wonder if that was the intention, but they just never got around to doing it. So there's that. The Brian Williams stuff is wonderful. Him keeping an eye on the cubes is freaking adorable.
It's very cute.
Very funny.
Isn't there a moment where they're just like, oh, where have you been?
I'm keeping an eye on the cubes. Yeah, he's in the TARDIS, isn't he?
Yes, he is. Yes.
Like, keep an eye on that, and then, like, they come back and he's been there the whole time. I love that stuff. I love the reintroduction of UNIT. Mm-hmm. This is the first time, really, that UNIT has entered the modern series in a more personable way. They appeared in World War III and Aliens of London, because obviously General Asquith was mauled and then worn by a Slitheen. And then they appeared in Sontaran Stratagem and the Poison Sky. Mm-hmm. And they appeared in Planet of the Dead, and like there's some UNIT stuff briefly in the Series 4 finale and everything. But this is the first time they've just gone, yeah, sod it. UNIT are getting involved, and you're going to meet the new head honcho. Because we've met some other Brigadiers, but this one's obviously quite significant. Gemma Redgrave makes her debut as Kate Stewart, which is not drawn attention to at all, beyond the, if you know, you're kind of piecing it together. Some mega fan nerds from the 90s have definitely figured it out just from the name alone. And I love that it's later in the episode that the Doctor sort of finally turns to her and says, why did you drop the Lethbridge from Lethbridge Stewart? And she goes, because I didn't want any favours. Like, she basically makes that point of, she's taken in her dad's footsteps. She's followed in his footsteps. And
the Doctor acknowledges.
And her whole thing is science leads. That's her whole thing. Science leads. So essentially, it's...
Isn't that a good phrase? It's science leads.
Yeah, it's a brigadier who has taken charge of the organisation. It's a little half one. Tiny half one, because it's not Alistair, but, you know, it's a Lethbridge Stewart. So she's taken charge, but she's obviously grown up on these stories of their scientific advisor and all the things that they do. So it's that subtle thing of she's in charge because of her dad and the Doctor and the work they did together. And I love it. I love her approach. I think her performance in this is very good. It's a great introduction to the character. I love the research station and like the cubes that are just playing like and all that stuff. There's that one that woman's just sat in there and it's just making her sad. And like all these different things. The mystery of the slow invasion of the very small cubes is great. It's so good. And the fact the story takes place over like nearly a year because nothing happens. They just appear one day. And then people get used to them eventually. And it's sort of cool because, do you know what it reminded me of? Army of Ghosts. When they arrive and Jackie's like, oh, it's nearly 3 o'clock, he'll be here in a minute. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, something's happened, Earth's gotten used to it, and we've been dropped into it.
And then towards the end, not towards the end, sorry. Like, they suddenly start
counting down.
Which
is very Torchwood Children of Earth.
Oof, I didn't like it. I liked it, but I didn't like it.
Obviously without the children being mulched into drugs. But the point is that
God.
How good was that miniseries?
Oh,
incredible.
Grim.
But yeah, like that's ominous. And then when it becomes this thing where people are having heart attacks, and essentially it's we learn by the end, like again, the premise of it is great. These things just arrive, societies inevitably get used to them, and then eventually they kind of weed out a weakness and remove the populace. If the species that have sent them there, the Shakri, I think they're called, decide that, yeah, they're not worth it, let's kill them. And basically they go from planet to planet. They're a fairy tale, they're a myth. They just show up one day, spend a year deciding if a species is worth keeping around, and then either leave them be or kill them off. And that's their thing. Grim idea. Creepy. Love the idea of an invasion using boredom and inevitable just sort of acceptance of these elements in their life, and then one day, and we'll kill them all. It's like, wait, what? Cool idea. The Doctor being frustrated, having to just sit around and
does a load of housework in an hour.
Yeah, paints a whole fence. Poor Matt Smith having to paint a whole fence just so they could show it in fast forward.
Well, they sped it up, so he did it quite quickly.
Oh dear. I love that he gets into Wii tennis.
Yeah.
That's flipping funny.
It's very of the time.
Well, I mean, even then it was a bit behind. It was 2012. The Wii came out in like 2007, so it was a bit behind.
Everyone was having house parties.
I'm playing a new game called Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild on the Wii U. But you're all going to sleep on it. You'll only start playing it yourselves when it comes out on the Switch in about 6 years' time. True story. Although I think the release date wasn't 2012. But the point is...
Anyway. Ouch.
Shall we talk about what doesn't work?
Yeah. Well, let me just preface by saying it hits a point where it starts to really not make sense. And you're like...
And it's at the same time that the program makers had to fight something. So we get one of the best scenes of the series in Amy and the Doctor sat near the tower, because this establishes that UNIT have a base at the Tower of London, and that
which makes sense.
The Ravens are spies or cameras or robots or something, but Amy and the Doctor have this wonderful conversation where like they basically face what both of them have been wanting to say to the other. Amy being, I think we kind of want to stop now. And the Doctor's being, I figured that that's what you were going to say and I've been terrified of it. And you realise they set up this idea, and I don't hate this idea, they set up this idea that the reason he keeps going back to them, like he's had that little taste of, if I visit them, maybe we can go on one more trip. And it keeps happening, is because it's like Amy's imprinted on him, kind of. She's like, she's it's the baby chick thing, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's like if a bird's born and you're there when it's born, very high chance it's going to rely on you as the parent. Like you are now mom and dad. You are now going to take care of the baby. Like that's what you are to it. It will stick by your side forever and ever and ever. And that's kind of what's happened. Her face was the first face his face saw. And as a result, he doesn't want to be apart from her if he can help it. Which buys into the whole thing we've discussed before of why the 10th Doctor's the way the 10th Doctor is. He's space boyfriend. And he's born into that role. And that's why his selfishness and neglect and all that grows after Rose is gone. Because his purpose has been removed. And like it's an interesting idea. Then we have the heart attack scene, all that, and Rory gets taken, and Brian gets taken, and we end up in the Shakri ship. We end up in a ship orbiting Earth, and we meet a hologram of the Shakri, which wasn't meant to be a hologram. Legendary theatre actor and apparent tit Stephen Berkoff plays the Shakri.
Berkoff, more like jerk-off, am I right?
Hep tap. Berkoff's performance as the Shakri is odd, because he's doing some interesting things that make you go, oh, that's quite alien. That's quite unusual. Like the way he's just kind of letting like words sit there in his throat for a moment, and it sort of sounds like he's almost pushing out dialogue. It just feels very like, oh, that's very unusual. But then he's like, ha 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 ha, bye, bitches, and he disappears, and then the Doctor uses the sonic screwdriver to change what's happening. As a fix, it's like people having heart attacks. How can we jostle the majority of them out of it? Defibrillators. Right, then
the Doctor was having
we'll
heart
literally
attack,
we'll literally just push the wave back out. So like they do a little bit of jiggery pokery, and the logic of it is that they essentially are using the cubes to defibrillate everybody who's having the heart attacks.
Is that what it was?
That's what it was. That's basically what it is.
I was very confused.
But we don't really see. We sort of see people be like, oh, and then we move on. And maybe that was meant to be part of the ending anyway. But it just suddenly happens. He just sonics the computer, and then it happens, and then the story wraps up.
Sonic.
And he says goodbye to Kate. Very sweet little scene where he gives her a salute before he gets in the car, and it's quite sweet. Well, she goes to shake his hand, and he does the like whoop thing. And so Matt Smith is wonderful as always. And then we get that scene at the end, which I quite like, where he has dinner with them, and then he's basically Karen Gillan does something brilliant. She does the most natural acting I've ever seen, where she eats something and she sort of stops for a second, and like looks like she pulls like a hair out of her mouth, and then carries like ugh, and then carries on eating.
Yeah.
And it's something you don't see on television ever, and it's like, oh, Karen, brilliant choice.
You are a wonderful actor.
And Brian basically says like, look, you two are grown adults. If you know what you're doing, it would be silly of me to tell you to not go. Because they have that lovely conversation, the Doctor and Brian, early in the episode, where he's kind of like, are they safe with you? Like, what happens to people who travels with you? And the Doctor admits, like, some leave and some have died. And, you know what I mean? You get the whole thing of like, oh, God. And then Brian at the end is like, no, like, you're grown adults, I'm not going to make you stay here, you do what you need to do. Like, no one else is ever going to get to do this sort of thing the way you are. Like, go and have adventures. Which is why it's a shame we never go back to Brian, because the guilt that obviously he'll be felt from that would be one hell of a story to tell. But in between the scene at the Thames and the last scene with Brian is this rushed conclusion.
You can't see the dog.
You can't see the dog. This rushed conclusion that from behind the scenes snippets and very politely worded non-answers from from the director Douglas McKinnon and a few others, including Chris Chibnall, talking about the script for this and everything, we've basically learned that Stephen Burkoff was a giant dickhead to everyone on set. Specifically, Douglas McKinnon, the director, wasn't listening, hadn't learnt the lines, and not in a being lazy kind of way, in a almost as though he was above it kind of way, and did not give them what they needed unless they were really like pulling teeth to make it happen. And the word I've heard, and the bird is the word, is that they wrapped him as soon as they had their fill. And then either in a reshoot or on set for the rest of that day, like into the night or whatever, they got the alternate options they would need from Matt, Karen and Arthur, rewriting on the spot and doing what they can to make something usable.
Yeah.
That usable thing is the rushed ending. But that's because they had to salvage it through this and through the edit. And it was the only way to make the story wrap up. Because the actor for their villain messed with them.
Was a poo.
Was
a real villain.
Was a real villain all along. Take a look at Stephen Burkoff's IMDb. So ignore his theatre credits, look at his film and TV credits, and notice how few and far between the gigs come later in his career. Almost as if he's notoriously difficult to work with.
Well, he's dead now.
No, he's not. What the hell?
What is he? No.
What if Stephen Burkoff passes between now and then?
What a coincidence. No, it's not. I'm just being mean.
Power 3, I like it. It's never going to be in a top tier list for anything because of that ending.
Power 3 will not be in my top 3.
But knowing what we know about why the end is the way it is, I admire them for getting through it. As a lover of them making the show, I'm I'm glad you found a way to get through it and not have to chuck a whole episode in the bin.
I think...
And I enjoy the ride up... Knowing that the end is such a... I can enjoy the ride because I know I'm going to enjoy the preceding 40 minutes of it without an issue.
I mean, I don't know why... No, I do know why I like it. I shouldn't like it, but I do, because it's... A story has a structure. It has a beginning, middle, and end, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And in this, it feels like there's a lot of...
Middle. Because the end is so short.
And the end is like... Beep, bloop. It's as if you're listening to a song and it just goes... Biddly bing bong. And that's it. You know what I mean? I
see a little silhouette of a man's scarab. Nothing really matters to me.
Biddly bing bong.
Wait, hang on. What? Biddly bing bong. Blah boobity bye.
Damn it! You knew what I was talking about. Yeah. So I shouldn't like it, but I do.
Yeah.
I don't like the end.
It's very much carried by Arthur, Karen, and Matt.
Yeah.
And Mark Williams.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And it's important that you get ready to miss them.
It's a bit of a shame that it's their second to last story.
Yeah. But it does set you up for feeling real sad the week after. Because the last episode of this half of the series is The Angels Take Manhattan. Not Chris. What's the plot of The Angels Take Manhattan?
How does it begin?
Well, it begins with a detective trailing a case and being led to a building. But the basic plot is...
reading a book.
They get a message in a book.
New York! And Amy accidentally... the doctor's reading this book and the doctor reads out loud, which is very, very cute. Ouch.
Yeah, that scene when Rory goes to get them coffee.
Yeah.
And then she's like, read aloud to me. He's like, I thought you didn't like me reading aloud. She's like, shut up. And you realise this is just a bonding moment. This is a little girl.
Wowzer.
This is a little, without the wowzer. On no occasion must you wows, or whatever it is. Like, this is a little girl and her imaginary friend hanging out.
Yeah, it's very
And it's really freaking cute. But they notice a description of something happening to Rory in the book.
Yeah, Rory, all he did was go for coffee, and it's like, what? That's happening right now. Thanks, Min. If you bury that on me, I'm going to... Can you remember the name of
the character in the book? Melody Malone.
Melody Malone, yeah. And I remembered Malone, because that's very New York.
But also, as we learn it...
I mean, that wasn't clever or funny, it was just loud.
Most British comedy from the 2000s onwards, that. So we learn about... Well, yeah.
What? What are you doing?
No one can see what's happening. You have to describe it.
You're a silly dog.
So Melody Malone is a character being written by, it turns out, Melody Pond. River Song. And I think it feels right that she is in Amy and Rory's last story.
Yeah.
Considering what we know of them. It would be weird if we never saw them again. Go on.
I didn't hate her in this episode.
We've said before,
Swallow your tea, don't spit it out.
Alex Kingston is always great. We're just not always fond of what the character brings to the story or how she's written.
Remove an obstacle.
But in this case, great addition. Mm. Do you think it's the fact that she fits the femme fatale framing perfectly in the aesthetic?
Yeah.
Because it's like, what, 1920 something? So like that's the vibe.
Yeah.
It won't be the 20s, would it be? 30s?
In the 20s.
1938. 1938.
What is it? No.
She fits it.
Yes.
She fits it right down to the, if I remember the description correctly, cleavage that could stun an ox at 50 feet or something. Because the doctor goes, yowza.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh God, all right, Moffat, your horn is showing.
Why would you want to stun a fox at...
A fox? An ox?
Oh, an ox. I mean, why would you want to stun an ox?
Just scare that fox.
Why would you want to stun an ox? Why would an ox be staring at your boobies?
Oh my God, so...
It doesn't make any sense.
It does.
Stephen, put it away!
So
put your penis away.
Not do it again. If people are watching... I'm going to weep. People...
I was going to say something that I'm not going to do.
Put your feet away! If people... So people watching this have already seen the episode. They already get the gist of where this is going, but like, what do we like? I love certain things about this story. I don't love the story. No, I don't love the story overall. I don't think it's a very good episode overall. I think it's got some killer moments, though.
Yeah.
Them in Central Park, actually filmed in Central Park, reading the story, cute. Just a scene of these three hanging out, cute. I love it when adventures happen because we see them doing something where nothing bad is happening.
Yeah, I like
and
that.
They've clearly been doing it for a while, and then something comes along that they're like, oh, what's this? As much as I love them arriving someplace and getting caught up in a story, this is always a fun alternative to the structure. I really, really like Grail, the idea of a crime boss who's got like illegal, like sort of really rare antiquities off the black market. You alright?
Yeah, my nose is really itchy. Sorry, Karen.
That's alright. Played by the wonderful Mike McShane.
Yeah, he is good at this.
Who I first learned of because of you, because we used to watch a lot of Whose Lines Anyway repeats, and sometimes the Channel 5 repeats segment would show some of the British ones occasionally. And Mike McShane was a regular contributor to that.
If you ever feel down and you need something to cheer you up,
go watch a compilation of just Ryan Stiles 90s, and Colin Mockery stuff.
It's 90s, isn't it? Is it 90s or
the original
2000s?
run?
Yeah.
Late 90s. The American one, you mean?
Yeah.
Late 90s into early 2000s.
2000s, yeah.
Yeah.
Go watch the American.
The 2010s one's very good as well.
Yeah, it is.
The revival's very good.
But I think you'd appreciate that more if you watched the originals. Welcome to our review of Whose Lines Anyway.
The original though is the British one, which we both aren't in love with.
It makes me cringe a little bit.
Yeah, there's some improv in there where you're like, this is good, but also it feels like everyone's trying too hard.
But then there's moments where it's like, oh, this is not good.
No. Whereas Mike McShane was always good, especially when they played bartender. Because he could improvise like an absolute mofo. Yeah. And he has this wonderful...
Madam, what year is this?
The dog is attacking, not Chris's face.
Why do you do this every video? Why? Oh my god, do you book her?
He had this wonderful idiosyncrasy as well, where like... between the games, because he was definitely heavier set back in the 80s and 90s during that show, wasn't he? Between the games, he'd take like a napkin out, not a napkin, a tissue, a handkerchief out of his pocket and dab his forehead really gently and then put it back in. So whenever I see Mike McShane in something, I'm always like, dab, 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 dab. I like him. I like the idea of having a weeping angel hostage and it's not got away because it's chained up. And it's a broken one, and that's the only reason they're able to chain it up and keep it is because it's weak.
It's weak, yeah.
I like the return to the end montage of Blink idea that we just keep seeing different statues, and they all look obviously sinister because you, the viewer, know it's a Weeping Angel episode, and then they give it a payoff when two of them that don't look like angels walk into the house later on. But then there's no resolution, so we don't know if they like killed Grail or whatever. We have no idea.
Grail. That's a weird name.
I really like the idea. Like, there's something genuinely horrifying about being lured into that building, walking like along the corridor, and then seeing your name outside the door.
Yeah. That
is creepy. I don't hate the farm twist.
No, me neither.
The idea that some angels have realised that New York is full of statues, so they're going to live in New York, lure people into this block of apartments, or this old hotel. Well, it's a hotel, isn't it? Or a hospital or something like that.
Isn't it apartments?
Because it's got a name. It's like River something, or Bing Bing Bing
River Song
Bing.
Flats.
But yeah, so it's the...
Oh, big yawn.
I like the idea that they have this thing of we're just going to feast here. What we'll do is we'll put people in this building and we'll just keep sending them back here. And we'll feast off like all the possibility of the years they're meant to have had. What doesn't make sense is they keep them in the building.
Yeah,
do they get fed? Do the angels go out and buy them food? Like, all we ever see is we see the detective and we see Rory. We see elderly versions of them in the beds, right? in nice, neat pyjamas that they did not bring with them. Okay?
Yeah.
So what, are they just in the bed, like, pooing and weeing themselves and eating feathers out of pillows or something? Like, I know obviously you don't want to grind your story to a halt to explain it, but it's like, surely it makes more sense if, like, you send them back in time, they end up somewhere else, and then the angels find them again sometime later, and the idea is that every now and again, they just throw them back here. Because if they're going to keep them in the building, then, like, they age in real time. It's not like Rory gets sent back in time and then is just old.
Maybe,
so they would age in real time.
If you think about it,
so they've got to be looked after in some way.
There might be one person in the flats, but they keep sending them back. So it's the same person in different time periods, at different ages, living in the flats. So it's all the same person.
Well, the idea is they lure you there and then they've got you. Because they just keep you on a loop.
Yeah.
Because no one will ever come looking for you. But think about it this way. Like, so that detective at the beginning, there's an elderly version of him in the bed when he arrives there. Yeah. And then an angel gets him. And then so that angel has sent him back in time. Yeah. And is living off the years he's meant to have. Yeah, yeah. The implication being he gets sent back, say, 40 years, 50 years, to this hotel, grows old over the course of that time, and then sees his younger self at the right date. Yeah? Yeah. What's he been doing for 50 years? How has he been surviving?
I'm sure the doctor...
Nope. There's never a line about it. So it's one of those things which is like, that's a creepy idea. And then you think about it and you go, hang on. Because, like, why would he be willingly lay in bed in nice pyjamas? Well, maybe the angels don't let them leave, but provide them with pyjamas. Do you see what I mean? It's like you've got to pick something.
Well, you want to keep them alive.
Yeah, you want to keep them alive, sure, because the idea is they keep sending them back. But if they keep sending them back, they still have to live. They still have to, like, it's not just like...
I get what you say.
Do you know what I mean? Like, the angel could keep sending them back for 84 concurrent years of your life. But you are still going to die in that 84 years if you don't eat anything or drink anything. Do you know what I mean?
Tesco online.
It doesn't exist in the 30s. 30s! So the moment you start thinking about it, it doesn't make sense.
Well,
Same with...
I think I have the answer, though.
Oh? Moffat apologist.
What? Do you know you're talking
Keep going.
One of the angels is a very good baker.
Oh, good lord.
And she makes baked goods. How do they get up the stairs?
Angels?
Yeah, because they're just flat at the bottom.
They're not.
They're like weebles.
Except... No, let me rephrase that. They're not meant to be. But Time of the Angels and Flesh and Stone kind of does that. Because when you see them pulled into the crack, they have a flat.
I think that's hilarious. I can't not see it anymore.
But that kind of sucks because they don't. Like, it's meant to be skirts. It's meant to be like, this is just what they look like when observed.
I'm going to move your diorama here.
No,
I imagine going... And that's hilarious.
But now it's not sinister. I don't mean the walk. I mean the fact that the angel's not there. The whole reason for this was for people to get really annoyed in the comments that it's about to touch Rory.
This is what I see.
Oh, good lord.
I can't not see it, and it makes me laugh, so they're not scary to me anymore.
Back in the shot there.
Because, I mean, look.
Flat bottom.
Flat bottom.
That was barely in shot. She's not a cinematographer, ladies and gentlemen.
I can't bloody see, can I?
Oh, God!
So I forgot the point that I was making, but everybody has fun at the fair.
What? Yeah, the point is, the moment you start to think about the plan, it makes no sense. The moment you realise it doesn't show us what happens to Grail, it makes no sense.
Grail, such a weird name.
The moment that... So Doctor Who's dealt with paradoxes before, right?
Many times.
Yeah, and something that the Russell T Davies era established brilliantly, going off of some notions from the classic era, is the fixed point in time.
Yeah.
The idea that some things are solid, like that cannot change it, because it influences so much of the time stream going forward from that point. This is not necessarily a fixed point in time. But when the Doctor marries to the idea that if you read something in the book, it has to be done, as the book had said, I'm sorry, I call BS on that. They could very easily change that because they know by now that River is going to write that book. So she's just going to write whatever happens the way it happens. And then they retroactively, do you know what I mean? The book will be different because the way they move forward in time based on what we've seen before, they just look at the book and notice that it now is different from what it read a minute ago. Because they're doing something different. Yeah?
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, I love the idea of, like, I think it's the grandfather paradox, isn't it? The idea that, like, a thing happens back in time that you cause in your future going back in time to make happen. You know, Back to the Future logic and things like that. Yeah. So that's the premise they're going off of here. But it's like, right, so what you're saying is River then at some point writes a whole book about everything that happens. Presumably it gets published and no one else reads it and goes, the hell is this? This makes no sense. Because, of course, later in the book it's them talking about how, like, it's time paradox and everything. Although I do love the idea that the only reason he picked it up is because he liked the cover, unquote. And when you get a glimpse at the cover, you're like,
it's River.
That's just River. I mean, obviously, her face is obscured.
How could you not know that that's River?
But I think that's the implication, is he's basically gone, oh, hello, who's this? This looks sexy. And he's picked it up, not realising the reason he's done that is because it's his wife, it's the woman he fancies. He's picked it up because it's her. Like, I think that's a very funny idea that he's gone, oh, hello.
Do you think they ever...
Yes, absolutely. What you can't see is a horrific gesture being done off camera. Good Lord.
That's illegal.
Put that champagne bottle down. What do you think this is? Big Brother Season 6? Anyway.
I don't know what that means.
Anyway.
I don't want to know what that means.
So, there's some great stuff in this. But it falls apart the moment you start to think about it. Or the moment you start to think about it compared to other times in recent stories where other things have happened. Like, the reason why I'm fixated on this whole time-changing thing is because the end of Series 6 was River changing time somehow and everything going differently and breaking, and then it going the right way the second time, despite the fact that it only ever went the right way because at the start of the series we saw it going the right way.
My brain hurts.
Do you know what I mean? We saw the Doctor get shot. We learn later it's a decoy, but, like, we saw the Doctor get shot, yeah?
Yeah.
And then in the finale, when it gets to that moment, she changes it, and that doesn't happen, and then he works to make sure that it happens. So it's like, so it always happened then. But it didn't. We saw it change. Series 5, the whole stuff with the Big Bang, we've seen time be rewritten. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. Like, it's there for a fun narrative trope. The idea of, like, Amy reads a thing where she reads that someone has to break their wrist to get free, and then later on the Doctor puts two and two together and realises that River being held by the angel around her wrist, that's what it is, and you have to break it now because that's... It's there for the dramatic narrative device of the episode it's in.
Yeah.
They read ahead on the chapters, and he sees that one of the chapters is like, it's called, like, Farewell Amelia, or whatever it is. And he realises...
Amelia's Last Farewell.
Amelia's Last Farewell. And he realises, oh my God, they're going to die. Amy is going to die. He doesn't say it to anyone, but he sees it, and he realises. So he tells River, and he's angry. This is something Moffat does a lot when he's writing The 11th Doctor, I really don't like. When he gets angry at people when they have no reason to receive it.
Right.
When he gets angry at Solomon, or Colonel Manton, or all these things. I love that. Because it's kind of scary to see this adorable, elderly, young-faced geography teacher of a Doctor get angry at a villain.
Yeah.
But when he gets angry at his friends or snaps at his friend, like the way he was talking to the girl in Doctor Wood in the Wardrobe, he was just being sarky to her the whole time. It was just like, why? Do you know what I mean? And he does this in this. Like, he turns to River and he basically just takes it out on her and is like, you find another way to get out.
And I understand. Why is that her fault?
I understand it's exactly. I understand it's there for the dramatic weight because she then realizes, right, if I break my wrist to free myself, then it's basically saying that we can't avoid whatever's written down in that book. So she fakes having got out another way until he sees that her wrist's broken. So So I get it. It's for the dramatic weight of this moment in this story, right? But like, I don't know. Some stuff sits weird with me in this one.
It's one of those where it's kind of like, it's great. Don't think too much about it.
Yeah. Like the Statue of Liberty, for example. So...
It happens twice.
And we hear it move. We hear the... like the crunch. And we know from the documentary Ghostbusters 2 that if that thing walked through the water, it would be up to its neck, right? So we wouldn't hear that clear crunching sound. We'd hear like a dull, water pressure muffled, like...
You'd hear a police car being crushed and Ray shouting, "Sorry, my fault."
She's a harbour chick!
I love Ghostbusters.
I think we're the only two people that do.
That's not true. That is not true. That's impossible.
Alright, Mark Hamill, calm down.
I wish I was Mark Hamill.
So, the Statue of Liberty thing makes for a great bit of visual iconography.
It does.
And then you think about it for more than 2 seconds.
And
it's so stupid.
So many people would have seen it.
It's so stupid. Exactly. Like, well, it's at the southernmost point. It's at the southernmost point of the island of Manhattan. Right? So this building's kind of blocking it from view. What about everybody across in, like, Jersey?
What about everybody?
Or, like, Staten Island or someone on a taller building.
What about everybody in the building?
Well, everyone in the building, to be fair, is in neat pyjambles sat in a bed. Oh, except for the ones who are creepily staring out of the windows.
That would definitely have seen the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, but they already know the angels. They're stuck in the building, aren't they? So... And none of them are going, "Help!" They're just staring ominously at people.
There's the guy selling hot dogs on the corner. There's a guy selling crabgrass or whatever.
Crabgrass. So, good lord.
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, will you stop doing that?
Wow, that sounds dark and ominous considering no one knows what the hell just happened.
Put it away, Stephen!
Put your penis away! Yeah, the Statue of Liberty movie makes no sense. It looks visually cool. It should have been just a poster image for
the Statue of Liberty movie?
Moving.
Makes no sense.
It looks visually interesting. It should have been on the teaser poster for the episode, and that was it.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't... The fact that as well that it just rocks up and it's like, "Hello! What up?" Yeah, and it's like, is it gonna do anything? Is it gonna try and grab them?
Is it gonna eat them?
It doesn't make sense. All of this, though, is lead... Yeah?
Hold on 1 second.
Oh.
So, when they're on the rooftop...
Yeah.
Isn't it there?
Yep. It comes over to them.
But then when they jump...
It doesn't do anything.
It's not there.
Even though... Well, they jump on the other side of the building.
Oh.
Yeah. It's all to lead to the genuine, like, drama and weight of this
Imagine if they'd have jumped and then there's just this hand would have come out. "I've got you. My baby!"
What? That was a Broadway joke for some people who will get it and everyone else will be confused. My baby!
What's that from?
Turn off the dock. So... Right superhero, wrong annoying kid. Jesus. The stuff that works in this is sort of like the stuff that worked in The Wedding River Song. The reason why I can kind of overlook a lot of the problems of Wedding River Song is because as a narrative motivator and as an experience for our lead characters after the journey they've been on, I can focus on that and the whimsical stuff.
Yeah.
And then afterwards you think about it and you go, what the hell? In this one, there's stuff I was thinking about while watching it and I was like, this doesn't make sense, this doesn't make sense. But it still has that core thing of this is about the journey of Amy and Rory in particular. And Rory realising that he is destined to be stuck in this building now. Like they've met old him, and apparently in the laws of this story, that means that they can't change it. Like it's going to happen no matter what. So he makes the decision that, as the Doctor says, like if we keep running, it'll cause a paradox. And you realise that Matt Smith plays it brilliantly. The hopelessness of it when Amy and Rory are like, we're just going to keep running. That's what we're going to do. He's my husband. I will be with him every step of the way. Yeah. They're going to be running for your whole life. You can see the Doctor when they leave, looking on his face like he admires and loves them so much, but he knows this is it now for Rory. Like this is it.
It's kind of like Rory's been cursed this whole time, ever since the first time he died.
Well, there's been jokes about it in this series as well, isn't there? It's just like I die again. It seems to happen a lot.
Yeah, and I kind of I like
so the fact that he takes charge of it this time.
I like that's been a running.
I don't
Really.
Yeah, because it became a joke. Well, it became a joke that Rory kept dying.
It's so tragic. Like he was destined to die, essentially.
We all are, though.
I know. No, in a tragic way, I mean, though.
Yeah, but it becomes more of a joke. It eventually became more of a joke. That's the problem. It's less impactful if he keeps dying.
I know what you mean.
I get what you mean. Like, it's sort of this whole thing of, like,
it's
his... Yeah, like, it's sort of, like, sad, the idea that he's bound for all these horrible fates. But the fact that they can get to the point where they can joke about it, it's kind of like, oh, I guess it's not that serious then. But at least there's a payoff of him taking charge of it this time because he decides...
Maybe it's because they're like, that's over. And then, obviously...
I don't know. That's tropey. Oh. If you want to see why I have an issue with
Don't think too much about it.
If you want to see why I have an issue with the many deaths of Rory, look up the video 5 Who fans, Stephen Moffat's worst fear. Because I did a whole thing on his obsession with never quite killing off any characters.
It was a very good realisation, and...
It's weird. Like, there are very rarely any main characters in his era that die and stay dead.
Yeah.
And there's even very rarely minor characters who die definitively on screen.
Yeah,
compared to the 70s era of the show and the 80s of the show.
In the 70s.
Good lord. But think about it, like, think about how many dead bodies there are in Resurrection of the Daleks. It's got the highest kill count of the original run of the show.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably that many deaths in the Moffat era, like, total.
Probably not even that.
It's very strange. But anyway, yeah, for him to take charge and be like, my death will cause a paradox. If I die now, then I can't have been in that bed. And the logic they come to is that paradox will be enough to completely erase all the work the angels have done. Because of time instability or whatever. Something flim-flam, something MacGuffin, something Ghost in the Machine, something Sonic Ex Machina, blah, blah, blah. And then they just appear in the cemetery where the TARDIS is. And they're like, how do we get here? Who cares? We're all here. Huzzah! The emotional weight of it obviously was Amy choosing to die with him.
Yeah.
Like, to commit suicide with him. And then he notices what we, the viewers, saw earlier when the Doctor and River were briefly in that cemetery.
Yeah.
That there is a grave that says Rory Williams on it. And he spots it and then gets touched by an angel. Ooh,
angels on your body.
And then I love what happens there because the whole thing is Amy's like, if I let it get me, will I go to him? And the Doctor's like, I don't know. Like, I honestly don't know. And River's like, yes, just go! Because she knows that even if it isn't the case, this is probably the last chance Amy's going to get of finding him. Even if she appears like 10 years later or whatever, like, it's the last chance she's going to get of finding him, really. And then you get that wonderful, complicated, scary moment of her name appearing on the grave as well.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's really upsetting. She's like, oh my god, they've gone. But oh my god, they found each other. And oh my god, they lived together until they both died and were buried at this plot in New York. And it's like, wow. Okay. Interesting. And Matt Smith's performance in that scene is lovely. And Alex Kingston's performance in that scene is lovely. Heartbreaking from everybody. What I don't quite understand is the paradox of them not being able to return to New York.
Yeah.
Because it's not very well defined in episode. It kind of hopes that you just get the gist of it, the way they explain it away. Basically, yeah, no, even the wiki doesn't sum it up quite concisely, so I'll sod that. Basically, because like the angels were kind of, there was a sensitive point in time anyway. The TARDIS needed extra juice to get there, and they did that thing where like he and River leave each other clues, which is a brilliant sequence, like with like the stuff written on the vase and everything. And once like he gives her this code word, which ends up being Yowza, like, he then uses that as an anchor to get him and Amy and the TARDIS there through the thing that's stopping them from getting there. The thing that's stopping them from getting there is implied to be something that the angels have caused, like this kind of barrier or something that keeps him from getting back there. Anyone from interfering in what they're doing. But then, like, I guess later the idea is that because of the paradox, that sort of barrier is stuck around. And it's all there again, narratively, to lend drama and weight to the loss of Amy and Rory, because the idea is he can't see them again. But we've got to create a reason for him to not be able to see them again, because he can't get through. Which River implies... no, River doesn't see them again either.
But she writes the book and she
writes the book and then makes sure that it's available, or that one copy or whatever is there for him to find.
Yeah, but she has that forward from Amy.
Yes, she does, doesn't she? How does that happen?
And she says, I'll tell her to leave you a message.
Yeah, how the hell does that happen?
So if you really want...
Does Amy get the book published? Is that the thing? Like, River leaves it somewhere for her, or has it delivered to her by someone else or whatever? It's very unclear. But for it to have any weight going forward, the Doctor cannot be in the programme from this story onwards allowed to visit New York post that date, right? Because there's that barrier is there now, yeah? Meaning that he can't go to, like, New York. New York is like a fixed area that the TARDIS cannot penetrate.
Okay, the TARDIS, but can the Doctor?
Cool. No, but that's the implication. Like, the TARDIS can't get there. That's what they're implying. So, what if he, like he says, parks in Jersey and takes a bus?
He gets a train or something.
Or what if, I don't know, he appeared in...
Oh, sorry, I'm so sorry.
He appeared in New...
I'm so sorry, I'm getting cramp in my leg.
What if he appeared in New York at another time in his life, because this barrier's just there from 1938 onwards. Sure, Daleks Take Manhattan was... Actually, when was Daleks Take Manhattan?
That was after the Great Depression, wasn't it?
Yes. So what year was that set?
It's all the 40s.
Well, I don't know why you're whispering, they can hear you.
Because I might have got it wrong.
Well, just say it aloud.
In the 40s.
40s! So the Daleks Take Manhattan takes place... hang on. Bing. No, Wikipedia. Doesn't work properly. Through Safari browser.
You on Bing?
Well, it's in the Safari browser. Bing! 1930. Okay, so Daleks Take Manhattan takes place 8 years before the events of this story, right?
My history nerdness was correct.
He's been to New York other times. In The Chase. That's implied to be present day. When they appear on the top of the Empire State Building briefly, and the cowboy, played by Peter Purvis before he becomes Stephen, meets the Daleks and everything. That's in the 60s.
Isn't Gridlock in New York?
No, that's New York, which is on New Earth, so no. But, like, the Doctor's been to New York in other times, so how does this work? Well, don't worry about that, because it's obviously come into place chronologically for him now. Yeah, but this story is determined that if you know an event has happened, then it's stuck. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, I think what I'm saying is there's some lazy there's some elaborate gymnastics done sloppily to justify why he can't see them again.
Yeah. No, you're right. It doesn't make any sense.
Like, it would just make more sense for him to not know where they end up. That would make more sense.
I've always...
Because at least then it's like, yeah, there's no feasible way he's ever going to find them. But then, of course, the viewers, we wouldn't know that they found each other and ended up together somewhere.
But also we know that
which he obviously wants to give us because he's so scared of death. Look up the video essay, he wants to give us a, oh no, they're fine. Nudge. Do you know what I mean?
But we also have learned that... Sorry, man. That companions can leave messages for the Doctor.
It's happened. In
the
20s.
In the what?
20s. We need to wrap up, by the way.
In the recent series, they leave a message on a great wall, don't they?
River does, like a language at the beginning of time on this planet and stuff.
Oh, yeah, no, that was it. Yeah, sorry.
That was River, so
yeah.
it's not quite the same.
But you can still leave a message.
Yeah.
So
basically,
it doesn't make any sense that you wouldn't see them again.
Basically, emotional reasons for this story being what it is, writing out the two characters, I get it. And I know this episode makes a lot of people sad and does its job for them.
It was sad.
But this really is the moment you think about any of it, bless you, it falls to pieces story.
Yeah.
And it's more spectacle than sense.
Yeah.
Which can be fine. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Also, I think in this, the cherubs are really stupid.
Yeah, they are.
Because, like, oh, they're giggling. Why are they giggling? But no other weeping angel does that. However, thanks to them, we get creepy stuff in video games later on by May's Theory, where you can hear angels. So, fine. Whatever. Well, no, technically, Angel Bob talking to the communicator did that first. Point is, Angels Take Manhattan. I don't rate it. It's not terrible, but it's just, I don't think it's that great.
It doesn't make sense.
But by Amy and Rory.
Right.
What do you guys think of The Angels Take Manhattan and The Power of Three? Do you like them? Do you hate them? Are you indifferent to them? Oh, let us know in the comments below. We will see you again very, very, very soon for the bit between the rest of this series, which we're going to film immediately after this. So, let's talk to Snowmen. See you in a few weeks.